I moved in from, I guess, my computing piece into engineering, so communications engineering, which is heavily around electronics. And thereafter went into telecoms industry, initially as an engineer, but then found very quickly I didn't actually enjoy the engineering part, but I enjoyed the technology aspects of the industry, and then moved from sort of engineering side to product management, into sales and marketing and business development, and that's kind of the space I've been doing ever since. And for the last 15, 20 plus years, it's been involved around internet content and mobile, both in the telecom side, but also in the startups that I've been involved in and have built myself. Yeah, I was living in Singapore in 2005, 2006, and I was running a small mobile content company. And I had to move out of my house very fast because the housing market went crazy here in Singapore, and I had to find a new home. And so what I did was I went online, and to my surprise there was nothing online, despite the fact that everyone I spoke to seemed absolutely obsessed with property, and Singapore looked like a high-tech society. But in reality, online adoption was fairly early stage in those days. And you had internet banking starting, you had booking of low-cost airlines starting, e-commerce starting. So the emergence of some digital consumption taking place. You had an obsession with real estate and property in Singapore and also across the region. So, population growing at 6 million per annum across Southeast Asia, of which those 4 million of that 6 million were moving into cities. Middle class is growing, and of course what that means is they all need a home, and as people get a little bit more wealthy, they buy their home. Real estate is the #1 asset class in Asia, and so the demand for housing is going to continue for the next 30, 40 years. So $150 billion market and growing, and so it looked like an interesting opportunity. I researched it a bit more and saw that around the world, in Australia, France, Germany, UK, Japan, China, these online property portals were existing. Very successful 50, 60, 70% EBITDA margin businesses, very cash generative businesses. And so the business models seem to be something that works across multiple markets. And so then brought the idea into Singapore, pitched it to an investor friend of mine, and he connected me to my co-founder, who was a Finnish techie, dating a Singaporean real estate agent and now married to her with a kid. And we started working together part-time, and then end of 2007 we launched, and we're going full-time ever since. Well, I think initially it was almost a daily roller coaster of emotions and challenges and highs and lows. And as the business got a little bit bigger and more mature, those have got less extreme on a daily basis. But there've been some consistent challenges throughout the last 9 or 10 years, and actually we're into our 10th year this year. And so talent and access to people has been one of the key challenges. So in the early days we had no brand, no money, so we couldn't pay salaries, a dream and no real business, and trying to attract anyone to come and work in that environment is obviously very challenging, because you just have to try and sell the dream and hope that somebody would believe you and come in and give it a go. More recently, the markets have been so successful, both from a technology point of view, from an investment point of view, large multinational technology companies investing heavily in Southeast Asia, the booming startup community, as well as more traditional businesses like financial services investing heavily in technology as well now. So you have a real talent war taking place in Southeast Asia, and so the same challenge it continues to exist today as in before, but for different reasons now. I think the other key challenge is scaling the business internationally. We built Singapore into a really strong, profitable, fast-growing business, and having done that, we thought it'd be reasonably straightforward to then expand into the rest of the region around Southeast Asia. And of course, that was a completely naive thing to think. So we went from 1 country to 4 countries in 4 months. And the consequence of that is we hired 200 people who very quickly became ex-staff because there was no infrastructure, no support, no training. We really stretched the Singapore organization, which at that stage was just supporting Singapore. So all the people in the Singapore organization were looking after Singapore, but then we were asked, please help us in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, mobile apps, web apps, hiring 100 people, training 100 people, building the brand, the pricing, the go-to-market strategy, etc., etc., etc. So we really stretched the organization for a period of about 2 or 3 years, and that caused us challenges in our Singapore business. It also caused us to hire and then also lose a lot of people. And then simply around the product, you know, we took the existing products and services from Singapore and moved it into other countries. But of course, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that actually property is very different in every market. How people look and what they're interested in, what they want as a home is also very different in each market. So then we had to really change the way in which we approach the whole product development and customization of the product for each market as well. Well, I'll be lying if I said that sometimes it wasn't challenging. It was hard to get motivated. Sometimes it was scary. It felt like the whole business was going to collapse. When we had really big challenges, and that was also quite tough to face. I'm fortunate that I had a few support mechanisms in place which helped me personally. So one of which was my co-founder, a fantastic guy, but he and I are completely polar opposites in all respects in terms of our personality traits and behaviours. So Myers-Briggs, I think 8 boxes, we're completely different, which is good and bad. Of course, the bad thing is, of course, he annoys the hell out of me quite often. But the good thing is, actually, when we want to bounce ideas off, when I'm upset about something, he's not, and when he is, I'm not, and so we're able to provide support and have the common vision that kept us together. So that was one. 2, my wife was fantastic, just bringing things back into perspective every now and again. We had the help of a couple of coaches along the way, which also helped, and also I've been a member of the entrepreneur organisation, which has also been a great benefit in terms of support network. But fundamentally, I think the key thing is, look, I'm quite competitive. I like to win. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist as well, and a little bit of a control freak. That's kind of driven me throughout the last 8 or 9 years or 10 years, competing with myself and wanting to actually achieve something which I feel proud about. And that's kind of just pushed me throughout the challenges, actually. Well, I'm going to cheat by giving 2 answers. So not really one tech company, but companies that are really helping the less fortunate around the world. So obviously the Gates Foundation investing heavily in sort of medicine and reducing the cost of medicine. Companies that enable, not particularly high tech, but plastic bottled water to be able to purify water under the sun to help people survive things like dehydration and diarrhea. But if I had to choose one more traditional tech company, I guess the one which today I would say I'm probably most admiring of would be Alibaba. The reason why I say that is I think from the humble beginnings Jack Ma had, and how he built the company during those humble beginnings, and the way he built that company with a vision, the determination and resilience to take on some very strong competitors in his home market, and to build an ecosystem around the core business, which goes from everything from e-commerce to business to consumer to financial services, and powering all of that, I think is extremely impressive.